Okay, it's rolling. Blah, blah, blah. Obviously, we got Dylan Von Arcs in the house. How we doing?
What?
Slim Slow, rocking the old D there. 2-minute warning, getting the thumbs up and thumbs up from John behind the scenes there. Hello from John, everybody. And Carl, floor is yours.
All right. Well, everyone, welcome into Building the Broncos. I am your host, Carl Dumler, and of course, joining me is Mr. Nick Kendell. Nick, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, doing pretty well. Wasn't sure if I was going to make it on time. There's a pretty bad accident on the interstate up to from where I'm working to here, so I was stuck in traffic for about 20, 25 minutes. But here we are, ready for a fun Tuesday night of talking football and all the rumors, man. It's rumor season. Even though there's no combine, still got some juicy rumors and stuff to go through.
Yeah, that's for sure. It really, man, it is hard not to, like, the combine should be going on this whole last week. And I was really hoping when they were talking about the whole, like we'll do half the group for 1 week, half the group the next week. I was like, oh, yes, they're probably going to do it. And then they were just like, nah, we're good.
Yeah.
And of all years not to do it, it's like this is the year you need that extra information. So it's a very sad ordeal for sure.
Well, Carl, everybody's running 4.2s at the Exos facilities, right? I think they had Chad and Eric running 4.2s last week. Not that those guys can't move it, but that's everything with a grain of salt. I think we saw our boy Caleb Farley, ran a reported 4.24.
Yes, sir.
So I mean that's awesome, but man, enough salt there to kill multiple slugs, right? Like
yeah, but I would still say he's one of those guys I expected to run like a 4.3.
Yeah, no, yeah, but a 4.24 is like that's fast. That's faster than like some Olympians.
Yes, I agree. I agree, but
I'm skeptic at heart, man. You know me. That's how it is.
Right, and it's hard because it does take away from when you mix in those kind of numbers.
Hey,
it makes everyone, hey, William, welcome from Kansas on this side here too.
Yeah.
Yes, we like our beards here in Kansas. That is for sure. But no, it is hard because it takes away from really being able to see what these guys bring athletically and being able to say, look at Caleb Farley running a 4.340 and just being like, man, this guy, he flies. And so, it is. But hey, we'll move forward. We'll figure it out. And we still know the kid is fast. We still know a lot of other guys are fast. There's some of them that are like, yeah, you're not fast for sure. And I don't know. We'll see how that all plays out when it comes to the NFL draft and how much teams are willing to believe some of these numbers. Oh yeah, Bo Jackson fast. There you go. I think he said he ran like a 4.140.
I mean, gosh, he was a freak of nature. Not everybody can be Bo Jackson.
Yeah, that's for sure.
He wouldn't play running back in today's NFL probably. You think edge rusher, tight end, wide receiver? I mean, he probably wouldn't play running back, right?
Yeah, I'd probably put him at that wide receiver spot and just let him run down the field. Tell people good luck keeping up with this guy.
It's like Derrick Henry and Von Miller have the exact same like athletic testing and measurements. Now, granted, I think Von is a little bit more flexible, which matters for that edge rusher position. But I mean, those guys, running back, it's obviously devalued right now. But I'm curious if it will evolve to a position where you just don't have enough difference makers at athlete, right? Because those guys, running backs aren't getting paid. So why go play running back when you can play wide receiver, linebacker, or edge rusher? So it will be interesting.
Which is
supply and demand.
Yeah, it's weird. When I was a kid, I remember running back was the position everyone wanted to play. Now it's quarterback or wide receiver or edge rusher. So
some of those wide receivers need to move to cornerback, baby. We just do. There's so many good wide receivers. Some of those kids, if you're dropping balls in practice, please go play cornerback. You're going to make more money. You really are.
Yeah,
so,
it's amazing what they're getting. Yes, we do. All right, everyone. Well, before we get to our show here today, we must say hello to our presenting sponsor, Manscaped. Listen up, fellas. Of course, 2020 really sucked, but it's 2021 now, which means it's time to embrace the new year, new me mindset. And the best way to start cultivating that is with Manscaped. Manscaped is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming, offering precision-engineered tools for your family jewels and helping 2 million men around the world keep their male grooming on point. If you let yourself go in 2020 while in quarantine, Manscaped is here for you to reboot and stay clean and shaved in 2021.
Yeah, guys, I know we have a lot of dudes out here listening to the show that spring is right around the corner, summertime's right around the corner, and especially those of you in the Rocky Mountains, you got a lot of outdoor activities going on, maybe some backcountry fishing or hiking or backpacking. I got a couple backpacking trips in the work right now, but you bet I'm going to bring one of my favorite products from Manscaped, the Crop Mop, these individual wrapped ball wipes. Yes, you heard that right. They have active pH control. And, Carl, I myself can get a little bit unfresh, and these really help me freshen up, which is really important when you are in the backcountry. So that's one of my favorite products. Also, they have the Refined Cologne. That's been my cologne of choice here recently. Typically, my wife has bought me some cologne, but this one's entered the rotation and has the wife's, 2 thumbs up. So that's really great. And great products over at Manscaped. It's not just the Lawnmower 3.0.
Right. And also, great thing that's going on right now, you can get 20% off and free shipping with the code HUDDLE at manscaped.com. Your family jewels will thank you.
Yeah, guys, that's right. Make sure you head on over to manscaped.com and get 20% off and free shipping with the code HUDDLE. Again, that's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com if you use the code HUDDLE. Happy St. Patrick's Day, and hopefully at the end of your guys' rainbow, instead of a pot of gold, will be a new Lawnmower 3.0.
All right. Also, we want to let you guys know, make sure to be following us on Twitter. You can find me at Carl Dumler MHH and Nick at Nick Kendell MHH. And John, make sure the behind the scenes man of the hour at John K MHH. And make sure that you're also heading over to Mile High Huddle. We are getting ready. March and April, man. This is our time of the year. This is what we love. And Absolutely. So you got free agency. You're going to have contracts that are getting ready to come up. We get to find out real soon what the Broncos are going to do with Justin Simmons, either that long-term contract or get him tagged or let him walk. I hate saying that, but you tune into milehighhuddle.com because that's exactly where you're going to get to all of this information. And it's just going to be an exciting time. Tune in and just make sure that you guys are keeping up on everything that is happening with the Denver Broncos. And make sure that you're heading over to sportsnation.com as well and checking out everything that's going to be happening with football. So, all right, Nick, we got a big subject here today.
Yeah, we absolutely do. But first, let's get to the comments section. Just say hello to some people that are in the house that we really do appreciate. We got Chad. Oh my gosh. Marcelius coming in here. God, sorry if I butchered your name. Yeah, I tried there. Nice. I did my best. I took French back in the day. I'm assuming that's French. We got Ernie Mays coming in the house. Go Broncos, go Von, go Pod. Yes to all three. I'm here for that. We got Jay Roper in the house. Jay sent us a really, really nice message here the other day. We really do appreciate that, Jay. And hashtag hair gang there. Hashtag curly hair gang. Let's keep it going. I saw we had Jamal Killings here in the house as well. Hello, MHH family. Jamal, it's always good to see you. We really do appreciate that. You got a great smile there. Greg Smith also in the house. Good to see you. Good evening to you as well. Appreciate you. I haven't seen Slim Slow in here before, but this killed me. I flashed it already, but I wish there was a way to get 20% off and free shipping. Well done, Jim. You made me laugh. That was caught me off guard. Anthony Cordova in the house. Good evening, dudes. Go Broncos. One of our favorites here, DMV3. You guys think Paton goes after Rudolph? Real quick, I think the question would be, I think it's possible, Nick Vannett. Right? If the Broncos move on from Nick Vannett and you have a little bit of money to play, maybe you go after a guy like Rudolph. I don't think it's as need as the Broncos, but if you're looking for a wide tight end, that classic inline guy that can be a blocker, I think Rudolph makes a lot of sense, but I do think that there's going to be a market for him as well. Yeah, I think that's the thing is he's going to price himself out of Denver. They're not going to be as desperate as some other teams for tight end. So I just think they're going to miss out. Willie, you're hurt. You know what? You hurt my feelings, Willie. You left me hanging on Saturday when you said you wanted to hear Luke debate Zach about Drew Lock instead of me. So turnabout's fair play, buddy. I remembered. Don't think I don't see you. Lock and key, baby. But anyway, we should probably get to the main thing here. Obviously, my dog's favorite pod as well. Thank you very much, Michael Dispasquello. Appreciate you very much. The first thing, Mike Klis had about a 3-minute interview yesterday that was dropped with Channel 9 News, I believe, down in Denver. I'm not a Denver local, so I could not tell you. I believe it's Channel 9, though. And he had for being like a 2.5 minute, 3 minute interview, he had so much information in there that is worth discussing. We can spend this whole entire show. I got 3 articles out of all that information. Gary Leeds, Palmer, hello, how you doing? Thank you to see it. We got Lucas also in the house, Lucas Estrella. We made it. Yes, you did, baby. Thank you very much. And yeah, you're right. I'm definitely more of the middle ground when it comes to Drew Lock. I try to be where Luke is embracing the hatred. So that would be interesting. But anyway, Mike Klis, one of the most plugged in guys. Now, I do think there is some question, at least as to how plugged in he is now with George Paton. Obviously, Klis was the guy at the table with John Elway. If there was somebody that was, sharing a glass of scotch late at night, odds are that was John Elway and Mike Klis. If it wasn't, Joe Ellis, but still, Mike Klis, probably one of the most plugged in Broncos insiders. And when he says something, you want to take note, you want to pay attention, because it's probably coming from the very top, if not, close to it. So first bit of information from Mike Klis, 3 things I want to touch on here. The first one, and I will read it right now. So it was a JJ Watt's contract predicament for the Denver Broncos and how that would impact Von Miller. Obviously, JJ Watt signed a 2-year deal with the Arizona Cardinals, getting 10.5 APY average per year, $1 million. And Klis says that contract actually it's 15.5.
15.5. There you go. Yeah. 31 million total. 15.5.
15.5. Excuse me. Doing it live, folks. So 15.5 million, 2 years for JJ Watt. And that might impact the market for the Broncos' ability to renegotiate / extend Von Miller. And he was hinting in juxtaposition to Ian Rappaport just last week on the Pat McAfee show that contract and the way things are trending, it might be the end of Von Miller in Denver.
Yeah, it really has boiled down to either he restructures this deal or redoes this whole deal. They figure out either add on some years and take down his cap hit, or he's gone. I don't think there's any way that you keep Von at his contract as it is right now.
Yeah, I mean, $4.225 million dead cap, $18 million savings in a year where not many teams are going to be able to sign players. Now, I know you're not going to be able to replace Von Miller, but the Broncos just went the entire last season without Von Miller, and the defense did not really fall apart until they were down to the back end of the back end of the back end in the cornerback room. So it's definitely a possibility, and it's something that we've been talking about here for months now, ever since Von was injured and looking at this contract. I mean, it's been pretty obvious that this was coming down the tracks as a possibility. And at first we got a lot of pushback in the comment section. The Broncos would never do that, blah, blah, blah. I feel like people are kind of starting to accept that this is a potential reality. Now, that's not ideal, and that's not to say it will happen. But I mean, with Klis saying this right now, I think it's a coin flip. I think it's really legitimately a coin flip if Von Miller is back.
And I do want to say, if it is coming from Klis, understand it's coming from the team side, not usually the player side. Yeah. And so him trying to say that could be trying to put pressure on Von's people of, hey, rework this deal, get something done, because we're real serious about the fact that we might cut you. So understand that's how that kind of works. Sometimes they do use the media to try to get fan support, try to get everyone on their side. They did that when Von was doing his contract. Yeah. When back here, 5 years ago? I guess it would have been about 5 years. Super Bowl. Yeah. But the team used Mike Klis trying to say, look at this big deal that we offered him, even though there was very few guarantees. They left that part out of the conversation. Yeah. And it got a lot of people going, Von, how greedy are you? And so, yeah, again, I just make sure you understand Klis is always coming from a team side of things.
And, talking about Von being greedy, just a caveat real quick. The teams aren't loyal, so I never bat an eye for when a player chases money or is not loyal to the team. Yeah. Because they would get rid of you in an instant if you're not providing value. So, that's really good spin by these teams to be able to turn the fans on these players when they want to leave. But I don't know. I tend to be a little bit more on the player's side, at least understanding it. We got Jess C13 coming in here with a good question that obviously stems from, okay, Von Miller's gone. Next question obviously would be, would a team trade for Miller? What could we get for him? Carl, I'm going to give that to you real quick.
Okay. I'm curious. Yeah. So I've talked to some people and there are some teams very interested in Von. Here's the big hang up with the trade. We don't know how the legal side of things are going to play out with all that happened here a month ago or whatever. And so teams are hesitant to want to trade what it would take to get him before they know how that's going to work out. it's also why the team is struggling to know, can we redo this deal? Because you don't want to redo it, give him some extra signing bonus or something like that to make it worth his time. And then all of a sudden, boom, hey, you're going to jail or you're suspended, all those kind of things. But I do know that there are teams who have called the Broncos and said, hey, what is it going to take to get Von Miller? And the price is high, but you do have some teams that are willing to pay a pretty penny for Von Miller. I do think that his value would be a first-round pick, a late first-round pick, I should say.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is how many teams could actually absorb that $18 million cap hit, right?
Yeah.
Like there's so few teams that actually have cap space right now. Broncos are, I think, fourth right now. So who could actually take that on? And also, it's probably the same exact conversation. We'd love Von Miller for $18 million, which is what it would cost in a trade. At that point, it's a game of chicken. Like you guys are saying you might have to release him. Why am I going to trade for him for $18 million before I could negotiate a contract on the open market? So it's a complicated situation. I think, obviously, in a vacuum, Von Miller would have trade value, but when it comes in this weird offseason where the Broncos are seemingly up against a wall, they have cap space, but maybe not cash, and they want to have a little bit more flexibility. I'm not sure how much anybody would trade for Von. I mean, obviously, I'd love to get a first for him, but once players hit that age 30 position, especially non-quarterback, non-specialist positions where typically, downhill quickly after age 30, it just is what it is. You're not going to get a first back. You maybe can get a day 3 pick, but I think teams are going to call Denver's bluff. And
they might. I do know one team. I saw a couple people in the comments make a mention of them, the Browns. They are a team that's looking for an edge guy. I mean, they were in big time for JJ Watt. They offered more money than what he actually got from Arizona. So that they are big in that market right now. It wouldn't surprise me if they were the ones that ended up trading for Von Miller. They are trying to maximize these last couple years of Baker Mayfield being on his rookie contract. They do have some ability to really manipulate the cap to make his contract work. They are one of the few teams that I think could be really aggressive and make that kind of trade.
But at $18 million, I don't know if teams are going to be wanting to do that, especially it's the same exact thing. This is going to be a buyer's market this year, and cap space is going to be at a premium, and the teams that can have it can buy guys that would typically cost $10 million a year for like $7 million, and short term as well. So it's like, getting Von is obviously great, but he's coming off an injury. He's going to be 32 years old. You got the legal issues. It's a very weird market. And if I was a team that was interested in him, I'd say, nah, you're going to release him. I'll just negotiate it myself. Also, there's something you have to talk about as well is Von Miller is a legend. And obviously moving on from him isn't great, but sending him somewhere where he doesn't want to go, I mean, that's a slap in the face to him. That's kind of the thing. Like, obviously the Texans could have gotten something back from JJ Watt, but he asked for his release so he could negotiate where he's going. And I would be surprised if Paton and the Broncos did not do the same for Von Miller. I think that really does matter for those kind of relationships. Now, if it's not worth it and you'd rather have that 5th round pick, then, so be it. That's on you. But I think that's something you're going to get. Now, Rebels legacy here real quick. Same thing was said about Wentz, and look what they got for him. This is probably the show where we would say 100 times. Hopefully I'm still here. Carl just dipped out on me. 100 times. It's the quarterback position that matters more than anything. And quarterback completely just changes. Edge rusher is second most valuable, but quarterback runs its own market. It's completely different.
Right. No, you're right. And you just froze. You didn't actually lose your voice. So that's we can still hear you. Good. We went to radio for a second. But no, you're right. There's a lot of that plays into it. I think if the Browns miss out on a couple people, though, you could see them really try to get aggressive just because, again, they see their window. And like I said, I know that they have already called. I've talked to some people that I trust. They've called. But, I mean, you call about a lot of people. I mean, each team's going to make hundreds of phone calls at this time. What is it going to take to get this player? What is it, what are they looking at contract-wise, all those kind of things. So take that with what you will. I do think that he does have some trade value. But you're right. There's kind of a weird situation, just like with the legal, with his contract and how it's structured, and with the cap situation, what it's going to be. We don't even know what the cap actually is going to be.
I think we're pretty pretty confident that it's going to be somewhere between 182 and 185. When pre-pandemic, they were talking about 220.
Yeah.
So like talk about a difference. Obviously it's not going down drastically, but teams were assuming, this is an arrow that keeps going up. There's no way it's going to go down and then smack. So it's going to be a wild offseason, and a lot of the cuts are coming. So any chance Miller takes a pay cut and stays? I think it's 50-50. I really do. I mean, there's obviously a chance Von Miller, I think it was James Palmer, who's as plugged in as anybody in Broncos, on Broncos side, said that, we got Travis Weber saying, and nice hat, Nick, liking the show. Keep it up, guys. Carl, where's your hat at, buddy? The daughters hide it again?
No, not this time. Tuesdays, I do a big food box giveaway thing.
Okay.
And it took a lot longer today than it usually does. And so I pretty much went from that to here.
Okay.
Didn't have time to grab the hat.
You're doing good work, so I'll let it slide this time. But yeah, Von Miller, I definitely think there's a chance that he could restructure. I think it's 50-50. Obviously, you're talking about kicking the can somewhat down the road to future years. And, that may be something that's important to the Broncos, a team that's probably going to be sold in the next calendar year. And there could be more money on the way. And then being able to pay Von Miller when that new financial structure comes into play. I mean, that's all possibility, but it's really interesting. Oh no!
Yeah. Only one time was behind the toilet. It was kind of funny today. I actually ran into some Broncos fans at the school that my daughter goes to, and told them about our show. I don't know if they're tuning in today. But
Kansas, baby.
We'll see how that goes. I know. Yeah, I'm finding more and more Bronco fans here in Kansas than I thought.
There's a fair amount of Australians too in the house, so that's really interesting. And we got Malcolm Brown coming in. Malcolm, always good to see you. Kyle Van Noy was released. Is he a scheme fit and a salary fit? I think he's kind of a scheme fit. Like he can do some of that, like rush off the edge and dropping, but I don't think it's as much a scheme fit as the Bill Belichick defense. And good call here, Lucas. Is exactly what I was going to say. I'd be surprised if Van Noy doesn't go back to New England. Yep, that's exactly what I think.
Yeah, I don't think he's a perfect fit. Yeah. I think he does offer a little bit of what they look for of those guys that can rush the passer but can also drop back in coverage. They like that out of their edge players because it allows them to mix in some creative pass rush packages where they can still only send 4 guys, but still have an edge guy going back, so you don't know which 4 guys are coming. So there's some
Steelers zone blitz, Dick LeBeau kind of stuff going on there. The early 2000s,
right? And so there is definitely some value there. I just don't think that he's going to be worth a whole lot. Unfortunately,
we were talking earlier. I think I'd be more interested in maybe taking a short-term flyer. Before the show, we were talking about Hassan Reddick, somebody who's kind of a edge rusher, speed rusher, drop back into coverage. The Broncos move on from Von Miller, and Hassan Reddick wants to bet on himself in a scheme that I think he would fit quite well in. That's somebody who I'm interested in. Also, number 9 overall pick for the Vic Fangio Bears a few years ago, Leonard Floyd as a Von Miller replacement. That one makes a lot of sense as well. Although I do think Floyd had a pretty good year this year. I think he's going to have a decent market. And he has obviously the pedigree as well, more so than Reddick does. So it will be interesting. It's not like if the Broncos move on from Miller that there's nothing there. Also, we got Dupree. And, as much as people like to point at the stats for Malik Reed, obviously I think Bradley Chubb, what I saw was the far better player, more impactful, a guy that the opposing blocking scheme identifies as the guy that we have to stop. But still, you can get by next year if you had to with Bradley Chubb and Malik Reed. It does change the narrative of how soon you need to target an edge, but still, it's not going to be like this team is going to completely fall apart.
Yeah. And I will say, if the Broncos do go with Malik Reed, this is a great draft depth-wise for edge. I'm always surprised at how many guys I'm really liking in this draft at that position. I'm liking a lot of guys at linebacker, especially in that second and third round. I'm liking a lot of edge guys that could be there in the second and third round, cornerback. This is a really, from about pick 30 to about pick 100, 120, there's going to be a lot of great defensive talent that's going to be very, not like superstar kind of guys, but very solid guys are going to stick in the NFL for possibly 8 to 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's true. And we got Mile High Beauty coming in here. We've seen you around. We really do appreciate you coming in. So we're really going to get rid of Vaughn from Malik Reed, who could regress. It's not so much that you're getting rid of Vaughn for Malik Reed. I think that's the wrong way to paint it. It's that Von Miller at 32 years old, coming off of a serious injury, with $18 million of cap savings you can move on from in a reduced cap season. It's just like all these factors line up where Denver, they might have to make that tough decision, and it would be a bummer, but it could happen.
Right. It would be harmful to the team. I mean, no matter who you bring in, for the short term, it's going to be harmful. For the long term, it could be the best thing that happens for the team. I mean, that's how you have to weigh all of these kind of cap discussions is how is this going to hurt us short term? How is this going to help us long term? Which one weighs more?
And I do think that is very much a George Paton showing his cards as far as his opinion of this team and their contention window. If you keep Von Miller, I think this team, from what I'd say, Paton would say, like, okay, this team has the bones in place where we could make a run at the playoffs in 2021. If you move on from Von Miller, that's saying, like, okay, 2021, probably another kind of transition season. We're thinking more about 2022, 2023 than 2021, which is probably not what Vic Fangio and the coaching staff want to hear, but that's, don't pay attention to what a guy says, pay attention to what they do. Right. Speaking of guys who do a lot, Mr. Boggins coming in here, the $4.99 super. We do appreciate you, Mr. Boggins, rocking the Bailey jersey in the background there. Another handsomely bearded fellow. If Locke plays the same as he did this last year, how screwed are we in 2022 with the free agent options and the draft? I mean, it really depends on what happens with the Broncos roster surrounding Locke. Like, we obviously know that the quarterback's the most important, but you can have a dud of a quarterback strung along to a good season. We've seen it with Blake Bortles. We've seen it with Mitchell Trubisky. We've seen it with Trent Dilfer. I mean, the Joe Flacco Super Bowl year, guys that aren't like top 10, but like team gets hot, quarterback gets hot, things happen. Also, a lot of it will depend on what the Broncos do in the draft this year. If they want to trade back from 9, like a lot of people are indicating, you're totally talking a totally different conversation if you're picking, let's say, pick 16, but you have another first-round pick. That's like about the same as having the 8th overall pick, as far as you could package those together and move up. So there's things that have to happen beforehand. And also there's guys like Matt Ryan might be available next year, might be interesting. Some other guys as well. So, we'll see. You take it year by year. But I mean, if they roll with Locke and Locke's bad again, then, quarterback purgatory, here we are.
Right. Well, and I figure, 1, you're looking at the cap probably still being down next year. 2, you're going to see a lot of guys who sign those 1-year deals this year with hoping that the cap will go back up so they can get the bigger long-term deal that actually pays closer to market value of what they should be getting in a regular year. So I think, I mean, you're already seeing it this year. Teams are making cuts like crazy. The free agent market's going to be flooded. So I think you could get some decent bargain players. This is going to be a year where you want to wait for that second and third tier. Man, there's going to be some talented players that are going to be impact guys day one for you. That I think you might be surprised by some of the names that you can get for decent contracts.
A lot of people say it'll be a mercenary offseason. A lot of one-year deals, guys go chasing rings, and just, I'm not going to maximize my earnings this year. Might as well go to a situation that's the best for me, that I can maximize future earnings. So it will be really interesting. No, this is a good question. Obviously, Carl, you and I do a lot of draft work. Who's the player to tank for in 2022? I'll leave it to you first, because I have 2 guys that stick out in my mind that I am just like I love for 2022.
Okay. One for me would be, so none of mine would be quarterback. Unfortunately,
there's the lick, right? Like none of them are worth tanking for if none of them are quarterback. But okay, continue.
And so how terrible I am with names, but the edge from Oregon,
Thibodeau, Thibodeau. Yeah. Oh my God, he'd be easily a top 5 pick in this draft. And I think Miami would have a hard time trading off of number 3 outside of going to get Deshaun Watson, passing Thibodeau. I mean, he is insane. People are talking about like, who's the Elijah Vera Tucker? Like Thibodeau destroyed him. Like Elijah Vera Tucker's good, but Thibodeau is like, oh my God. Like, okay. Yes. Okay. That's one. So I had 3.
That would be my guy.
Okay.
I'm trying to think if anybody else real quick off the top of my head.
I got a couple here. They're both defensive backs. Derek Stingley Jr. Insane tools. You don't see guys with his size move like he does. Wasn't as good this past year as he was 2 years ago, but that's true for the whole LSU team. But I'm betting on traits. I mean, that kid, he just moves differently. You don't see guys with his size move like he does. Reminds me a lot of Patrick Peterson. The next one is somebody who I love myself, a very good versatile safety that can play single high, two high, come down and play the slot, can play the box, can even do some out to wide stuff. Everybody's talking about Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. He was not the best safety defensive back with back seven player, whatever the heck you want to call him, on that defense. Kyle Hamilton on Notre Dame. Pay attention to number 14. That kid, Minkah Fitzpatrick. That's who he is. He's Minkah Fitzpatrick. I love Kyle Hamilton. That hurts me because I am a Notre Dame Golden Domer hater. But okay. We got there's the guy. Honestly, I know that it's been a talking point. Like, everybody always underrates the following year's quarterback class. I think that's bull spit. I think people tend to overrate the upcoming season until they get a more critical eye, and then they kind of regress, which I think even further should concern you about the 2022 quarterback class.
Yeah.
Because I think at this point next year, everybody's going to be talking about DJ Ugalele, who is the guy who's going to step in for Trevor Lawrence. I mean, arm from the gods.
Right. And I'd say that's something to look at for this class, that really none of the guys that were at the top fell. I mean, Justin Fields, maybe most people expect him to go number 2 overall, but I think the only reason he's maybe fallen is just because other guys have risen up. Trey Lance is expected to be maybe that top 10, top 15 kind of guy. Unfortunately, he lost his season. He might've been the guy that got hurt the most. He had a chance to really cement himself as not only a top 3 quarterback, but maybe top 3 pick kind of guy. And of course, then Zach Wilson coming through. He had some great moments. I think this is something people forget. He was on the radar before this past season. I went back and watched some of his games from 2019. He made some bonehead throws that he didn't this last year, but you still saw the arm talent. You still saw the creativity, ability to really move around in the pocket, buy himself some time. You saw him throwing sidearm. You saw him doing all the things he did this year. He just did it better this year than years past. So I still think he would have been a guy that a lot of people were already talking about anyway in the NFL circles. But all those guys really rose to the occasion, showed well. Unfortunately, you saw other positions like defensive tackle. Nobody rose up. And the guys that you expected to be
Davion Nixon rose up from
Okay, I'll give you him. But you saw a lot of guys who hurt themselves this past year by a lot of their play. And so, it's kind of interesting looking at that kind of discussion. But you're right. I don't think there's anybody, and it's partly because you just don't see the tools in a lot of the guys for that 2022 class. You see above average tools. You don't see elite traits. Like, we knew Josh Allen had elite traits before his junior or his senior season.
Yeah.
You knew it.
We knew about Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
And Justin Fields as recruits.
Right.
It's a little different. I think it is a little different. I agree with you there. This is a great transition. Rebels Legacy laying us up a easy transition pass here. I feel like 1 to 2 more corners and a sideline LB from a very dominant defense. Well, also in that Mike Klis interview, he had a quote here. For sure, as far as the offseason plan, for sure he's going to get a cornerback. I'm not sure if he will get the top end cornerback in free agency or not, but they need at least two. I think they will come with one away in the draft, high in the first and second round. I also think they'll come away with one in free agency. They also have been chasing a linebacker with some speed. There's not a whole lot of those guys not a lot of those types of guys in this draft, so speed linebackers. And then he said he's going to fill out the offensive line because Juwan James is an unknown, something that last year I was an anti-tackle bro because I really hate people focusing in on a singular position unless it's quarterback, because again, quarterback operates in its own universe. But this year I'm thinking obviously Sewell's the only one I really feel great about at 9, but if you trade back in that 15 to 25 range, the guys that I like the most are tackles. I just think that's the best value in return. So great transition there. What do you take away from Klis's thoughts there? Double dipping at cornerback, free agency, and early in the draft, speed at linebacker, and I almost gave the middle finger on that one, and then a right tackle.
He hit all the positions that you and I have talked about, and we've said that they need multiple cornerbacks. I think that's pretty obvious to about anybody out there. I still think Ojemudia can be a guy. in this league. I think he can be a really solid number 2 cornerback. I don't really see number 1 kind of traits, but you still don't know exactly what he is. Callahan, again, we've talked about the injuries, that he's never played 16 games in a season. So to bank on that, you're setting yourself up for failure. And in today's NFL, you need at least 4 cornerbacks to really function at a high level. And right now the Broncos have 1.5.
Yep. I mean, this is something that I think it was Bill Belichick talked about a few years ago at a coaching clinic. And he said that offenses dictate where the ball goes. So having one great cornerback is great, but you need depth in the secondary, because if you have one guy who doesn't belong and that guy is identified, you are going to get picked apart. I mean, we saw year after year with Peyton Manning. It didn't matter the Broncos had Champ Bailey because the guy across from him couldn't hang. So, you have to have, I believe in the defensive front, quality, in the back 7, quantity, especially in the defensive backfield. And we've seen it the last 2 seasons. Broncos have not had the needed depth at the cornerback position specifically. So they got to get on it. It makes sense. They spend for a guy and bring somebody up. And we can talk about some names here in a second. Wanted to get to Hunter Wertinen. Hopefully nailed that one there. Let us, if I ever get your name wrong, guys, please let us know. Because I want to get those right. If you're going to come around here and support us, then by gosh, I need to get your name right. I'm just here to support you guys. Your content is always rock solid. Keep it up. Well, Hunter, we really do appreciate that. That is that means a lot. I mean, it really does. We're out here because we love talking ball, but it's really about the community, right? Like the fact that we can engage in this conversation with this platform with you guys is what makes it special. I'm also coming in here from Hunter again. Also, would you guys prefer Sam Darnold over Locke? Not sure if this was asked yet. Carl, you were the biggest Sam Darnold fan I know. Now, granted, that's not a shot, because I liked Josh Rosen. That's probably a big reason I am scared to death of Mac Jones and like Trey Lance, just an overcorrection. But I'm human. But Hunter here, Sam Darnold over Locke. Do you like him?
Yes, I do. I don't. This is the hard part, because both guys have pretty much the same problem. They have moments of greatness. They have moments of glimpses of what they could be if you saw their traits fully pay off, surrounded by a lot of bad play. Mm-hmm. And now Sam Darnold, the question you have to ask yourself, is it because of his coach, who has been proven to be a quarterback killer? Or, I mean, his entire resume is I coach Peyton Manning. Yeah, great. No. I wish I could, anybody could have stepped into that and done a great job. But I still think Sam Darnold has a lot of great traits that could really turn into something in the NFL. Is he broken? I don't know.
He's unfortunately,
yeah, he is. And I think he's got better arm talent than Drew Lock does. I think he's got better accuracy than Drew Lock does. Yeah. I think he's got a little bit better mind for the game than Drew Lock does. I think athletically speaking, I mean, running wise, I think they're about even in that kind of category. And so I think Sam Darnold has a little bit of a ledge above Drew Lock, but is it enough to go and trade what it's going to take to get Sam Darnold? That's the question. Is it really worth it when you could just use that pick to surround Drew Lock with better talent?
I think they're in the
I
same
don't know
bucket.
If that's worth it. It just would depend on what they're asking.
Yeah, I have him in the same bucket. So if Sam Darnold was a free agent, I would be interested. But the fact that you have to give up probably 40 overall, no, thank you. I'll probably pass on that one. So, and also, I had this conversation with Luke on Saturday. There are teams that are going to be so desperate for quarterback that they'll be willing to trade more than what the Broncos are. I mean, there's teams that just have no answer at quarterback right now. So
right.
It will be interesting to see what happens. We got Michael Kravanis coming in here. All 4 are there in the second. Who are you taking at backer? Bolton, Cox, Barron, Moses. Who are you going with? I mean, gosh, I'll let you go first, Carl, because I don't really. Okay. I like some of these guys, but I don't know if I love any of them at 40. It's a deep linebacker class.
I would. What Dylan just said, I'd probably go with Cox.
Okay.
Just his athleticism, his already proven coverage ability. That's something that the Broncos don't have at the linebacker position right now. Mm-hmm. I think he comes in even as a rookie and plays a very significant role in that defense. Some of the other guys, there's some questions when it comes to the coverage side of it. of how consistent they can be in that kind of role. Cox, I'm very, that'd be another guy. Jamin Davis, would be a great name to add to the list here. But
I was going to say Jamin Davis. Good job, John Boy.
Yeah, but no, I think he's the guy that I have the clear cut. This is what he's going to be when he gets to the NFL of those four.
I like how much that he was able to play in the box and then kick out and play like an overhang kind of nickel position as well. It's not that Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah where when he comes in his plays between the tackle, he has to duck around guys because he cannot disengage from blocks. I just did not see that from Cox. So I really do like Cox. Moses, he never looked the same after his 2018 season. They had that injury. He did not look that good this year. Bolton, I like, is solid, some big hits. But man, he is so stubby. I just really worry about his ability to disengage from blockers consistently. Baron Browning, freak athlete, never really put it all together at Ohio State. Is he maybe a better hybrid edge rusher kind of thing? I mean, he has some really interesting edge rush snaps because he's so bursty, but linebacker is one of those positions where it's a processing position. You have to have some level of athleticism, but you can get by if you are a processor and can make intelligent decisions and see the game. And, that's how guys like Josie Jewell, not a good athlete, not a big guy, but he's not terrible out there. You can get by like the Broncos did this year with him. Obviously you want to upgrade if you can, but still, I think that Browning scares me because it's such a heady position. He just had not shown those instincts. So much more of a see ball, go chase ball kind of guy. Yeah. But Jermaine Davis, 6'4", a 7-foot wingspan, 225 pounds. I mean, you talk about guys with some rocket skates on him. I'm interested. And I also really like Cameron McGrone from Michigan. That's another name as well. So if the Broncos don't take, I see a lot of people the Broncos have to take Zaven Collins or Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah or Micah Parsons in the first. There are linebackers to be had day two guys. I would be stoked about a number of these linebackers day two.
Right. No, you're right. And I see some people talking about what are your thoughts on Strnad here from Tim Durr, and a few others were asking about him. He's solid, but I think there's some guys in this class that offer higher upside and what they can bring because their athletic profile trumps what he brings to the table. Strnad is a good, not great player. I just think his ceiling is very limited by his lack of athleticism. Kind of the same with Josie Jewell. Smart player. You're never going to find him out of position, hardly ever. He's going to do the right thing for you, but there's still just, because of the limitations, you're always looking to replace him because you're looking for more athleticism being put on the field.
I mean, I'm a Hawkeye. I try to be so analytical and not biased when it comes to the Broncos, but I throw that out the freaking window when it comes to my Hawkeyes, right? Unless they're trying to evaluate him draft wise, but I love myself a Josie Jewell. Josie Jewell is probably only as valuable as he is on his rookie contract, right? You can plug and play for a while and he's on his rookie deal, but those guys, you just turn them in and out. You draft, play them for a bit. All right. Yeah. Thank you. Well, you were cheap. We'll see what we can do with this next batch of rookies. So we'll be really interesting. Casey Martin coming in here. Good evening. The best MHH show going. Casey, we appreciate that. Go pound that in the iTunes review. Honestly, if you're really feeling that fresh, I wouldn't hold your feet to the fire or anything, but that would be amazing. Just let them know. And the Strnad questions, I think Strnad is interesting. He's a guy that Vic Fangio spoke highly of, but you're talking about a 5th round pick, right? Obviously he raises the floor of the room because you got another body that might be able to do something, but are you depending on him? How much can he play base package next year? You have him, but how much does he bring? I got to see it on the field before I can bet on him, especially as a 5th round pick.
Yeah. Oh, so, I'm sorry. Maybe I should keep my hands off.
Not me, baby.
There we go. Okay. Hand check. Holden Adams coming in here. Really appreciate the super chat. Love the picture. Oh, man, I can't wait to see Sutton back on the field. It is a thing of beauty. That is for sure. But he asks a question. Who and which round are you taking an offensive tackle? Need a guy that can step in for / replace James. So,
I mean, I hate the answer is probably guys you could see the Broncos bringing back an Elijah Wilkinson just to make sure that you're not, caught with your shirt off and your pants down kind of thing. That's not what anybody wants to hear, but That's just kind of the reality of hedging your bets and getting a guy who knows the system or somebody of an equivalent of Wilkinson. So not great. As far as guys who I think you could take at offensive tackle, it's going to be really interesting. There's a lot of good offensive tackles. I'll just throw out a couple late round guys, probably late day 2, early day 3, that interest me. I really do think Spencer Brown is a right tackle that if he was there round 3, I might jump, even though he might need a year to get integrated. Northern Iowa, not University of Iowa, but Northern Iowa kid. I think weight room warrior, doesn't always translate to the field, but he's so big and athletic that I think I'm going to bet that he figures it out. The other guy who was not on my radar at all until the Senior Bowl, but like guys with length and guys that can move and have some positional versatility, I'm always in. Deontay Smith from Eastern Carolina, he belonged. And he might have to have a year in the weight room to kind of get that strength going. But, if he's there early, round 4, where the Broncos are picking, I'm in. I really think Deontay Smith is a guy who can develop into a starting tackle. And tackle is one of those positions where there's so few guys that have the athleticism and the body type to hang that it's almost a first-round position or not. If you get those guys are identified by the league at such a good rate. Like, you say what you will about the drafting and identifying talent, the tackles they get right most of the time. So if you want one, you probably need to take them in the top 40 in the least, if not round 1.
Yeah. I'd say the other position that it shows that same way is edge rusher
and cornerback.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that they just like, especially, you're talking edge rusher. You're also talking like body types as well. Like, it's just a bigger type. Like, you have guys like, he's really had good at tackling his last few years, but he's 6'3" and has 33-inch arms. Like, sorry, like, to deal with the freaking superheroes that play edge rusher in the NFL, you're already behind the 8 ball. It's the same thing. The offensive tackle for North Dakota State, Dylan Radins. Like, I was arguing with somebody, not arguing, but discussing with somebody on Twitter, like, oh, he could be the next great tackle. I'm like, 33.25-inch arm length, like, it concerns me a little bit. Like, he just did not hit that threshold. He could overcome it, but like, he's battling against that. And it's just like, ugh. And then you have somebody like, again, how many times can I say Iowa in this class? Alaric Jackson. Some people thought he could be a late day 2 kind of guy. Comes in at like 6'6" with 32.5 arm length. I don't know what to do with you. I don't know what to do with you in the NFL. So it will be interesting.
Yeah. This is why I know a lot of people say the combine is overrated, but those measurements, like there is a certain minimum threshold that you need players to meet. Like, it doesn't, as long as they meet that, then you begin to build from that. But there's very few guys that don't meet that minimum threshold that all of a sudden becomes something in the NFL. It's just that, that's the way the league works. You need that minimum level, just an athletic build of how your body is built. And so that does matter more than people realize. That there's a couple of exceptions here and there, but if you are drafting to find the exception, you're probably not drafting well. There's a reason that they are the exception.
Yeah, like, you want to take the same hit rate or the same chance of the same investment, but you have one that's less likely to hit. Like, why would you invest in that? So that's always a concern. We got Tyler Randall coming here. Tyler with a pick coming in, got the fresh hairdo, got the facial hair. Tyler's only been like a TR picture in the background. So Tyler, good to put a face to the name. Thank you very much. How many CBs and DBs do you think we take in total? Also, what are the odds of trading back? Thanks for all you guys do. Hashtag DB4L, hashtag MHH4L. Tyler, we appreciate it. Gosh, if the Broncos went 2 of their first 3 picks on defensive backs, I wouldn't bat an eye. This team needs a shot in the arm in the secondary. I think that, as Klis said, you have to do that. As far as the odds of trading back, I think the odds of trading back right now are 50-50. I have, of course, because this is how I work and I paint it in my mind, so I'm going to be upset no matter what, 7 guys right now that I would be okay with the 9th overall pick. If not, I want them to trade back. And 4 of them are quarterbacks. And the Broncos picking 9, I bet you all of them are gone by 9. But that's just kind of how it is. I was the same way in the 2018 draft. I was like, oh man, I got like 6 guys that I'd like at 10. Please, one of them. Nope, of course not. You can't have nice things. But what do you think here, Carl?
Yeah, I think probably good chance that 2 go in the top 100, just because it is such a need. And also, if you don't have it in the NFL, you're in a lot of trouble. And then I think overall, it would not surprise me, especially if the Broncos trade back, seeing at least 4 guys for the secondary. The great thing with safeties, especially, is they are great special teams guys early on. So you can at least develop those guys as you are trying to figure out what you're going to do with Kareem Jackson moving forward.
There's a transition for you. We should transition there.
Okay. So John Clayton came out with a report here recently, pretty much saying that there is a very good chance that Kareem Jackson is not going to be with the Broncos. Most likely, John Clayton report today. Kareem Jackson most likely cut. Thank you, Noel. I'm really torn on this one because Kareem has been a integral part of this defense, and I hate to make more holes than needed because, I mean, you're going to have to replace that player, and you need a guy that can come down the box and drop back in coverage. That's not always easy to find, especially a rookie trying to step into that kind of position. I mean, we saw even with Justin Simmons when he transitioned into this Vic Fangio defense. Like, we knew there's a good chance that Justin Simmons could become a star, but it took him time because this is a very complicated defense when it comes to the safety position. There's other spots that are a lot more simple in this defense that you can step in, be a day one starter, boom, let's go. But there are other positions you need some time to develop, and safety is one of those. And so that's why, especially when you just don't have a guy on the roster right now that I sit there and say, hey, that's a guy that's going to have his time to develop and really become that next guy for you. They don't have that right now. So I just feel like that would be a huge blow to the defense. Yeah,
I mean, Kareem Jackson is one of those guys that actually has lived up to his contract to date. I know they paid him a good deal, but I think he's, they've had surplus value on the return, and they can save, let me see, if they move on from him, they can save $10 million this year. Oh, that is pretty enticing with only $2.82 million in dead cap. That's a guy that I would love to approach with a restructure, maybe giving him an extension, keep him around for another 2-3 years, because he's one that safeties are a position that actually can age pretty well because it is another heady position. And Jackson was a really good athlete that already transitioned from boundary corner to safety. So I'm hoping that they can keep him around. And I'm with you too. Like, I do not want to be in a position where, like, you moved on from Kareem Jackson. And I know Will Parks is a fan favorite, but I'm sorry, guys. Like, he's a third safety. Like, I just don't. I mean, if he's your starting safety, you're probably looking to replace him, right? Like, the Eagles moved on from him like it was nothing. So I love him as a third safety, and I think he's a great guy as well. But I'm talking football here. So I don't want to create another hole. Like, that's the biggest thing. You don't want to go in having to take a safety.
And I keep seeing the name Richie Grant come up.
I like him. Do you want to be pigeonholed to have to go Richie Grant at 40?
Yeah.
That scares me. That's not good team building.
Here's my issue. He is great in coverage, not always a great tackler. And so Kareem Jackson, one of the best tacklers on the team. He is a guy that's flying down, making plays. I mean, he's won games with some of his big plays. And so that's one thing that really makes me nervous of the Richie Grant. I feel like he's more of, and you and I have talked about this before. It's not free safety, strong safety with this Broncos defense, but I'd still say that you see Justin Simmons dropping back more and
field and boundary.
Right. I feel like if you're going to replace Kareem Jackson, you need a guy that can come down, fly down, and make plays in the run game. And I'm not sure that Richie Grant is that guy. Now, if they draft him, I'm going to be excited for what it brings in the pass game because, I mean, hey, that's great. Have two great pass coverage safeties back there. It really allows you to mix things up however you want to do it. But I would worry that our run defense would take a huge hit.
I also think he's 25 years old, which I just said, obviously safety doesn't matter if they're that much older, but still, that's less years where you can see them getting to that plateau. There's less growth that they're heading towards. So
and that's almost a rookie contract.
Yeah. Yep. So it will be interesting. I mean, that's one where if the Broncos move on from Kareem Jackson, I'm thinking that you trust Vic Fangio and the Paton and whoever to find a bargain bin kind of guy that can come in, and you're probably going to get better year one return than any safety you could draft, right? Like, that's probably what it is. Everyone get your drink ready, but like Desmond King, safety / slot. I mean, for the versatility that he brings, I think he's a great fit and a great tackler for this defense. And if they moved on from Kareem Jackson and Desmond King wanted to take a 1-year, $7 million deal, giddy up, baby. I'm in.
Yeah.
So we'll be interested to see what happens there. The last bit I wanted to get on to news-wise before we get out of here. Do we get Simmons and Harris resigned? I would say it's increasingly unlikely. And Mike Klis just recently had a tidbit also in his interview about Shelby Harris, where he said that with Jarrell Casey being cut, you have Mike Purcell coming back for a season, and Liz Frank injury is going to be 30 years old. It's not going to be easy for him to get back to full strength. Shelby has been a big part of the defensive line for the last 4 years. He's been highly productive. If he's going to get 10 million plus a year, which is what he tried to get last year, then he's probably gone. If it happens this year, I think it's going to be difficult for the Broncos to bring Shelby Harris back. So the Broncos will be looking at other free agents, maybe a little bit more team favorably in the financial department as far as filling gaps along the defensive front. I know nobody wants to hear it. Everybody's got their fan favorites. Shelby Harris seems like a great guy. He was great against the Chiefs and the Chargers this year. Probably one of the biggest reasons they were in those games. But $10 million a year for a 30-year-old interior defensive lineman, it seems like the Broncos are heading to not a breakup, but a split of the roads.
Yep. Yeah. It kind of sounds like the two sides have figured out they kind of want him to go test the market and come back.
He should get that money, man. This is his chance.
Yes. Yeah,
Shelby, I love you. Go get paid. This is your chance, buddy. You're 30 years old, like from 7th round pick from Illinois State. This is your chance for money, baby. Go, like if somebody pays you, you don't owe anything to Denver.
Right. No, I agree. And it does sound like that if they're going to go let him test the market and then come back and say, hey, this is what a team's offering me. You guys willing to pay that? If not, hey, I'm going to go sign with this other team. So, but that usually means if he hits the market, good chance he's going to get paid. Last year was kind of an anomaly. He had a really bad agent that really hyped him up and made him believe that he was going to get top position money. And it just obviously kind of blew up in his face when some teams were making legitimate offers, but kind of going, hey, you're more in that 6 to 7 million kind of range, not the 15 million range. And he's just like, somebody will pay me. And nope, didn't happen. And so then he had to take that 1-year deal and obviously stuck with the Broncos because, hey, knows the defense, knows that he can be successful in this system. And I really hope it pays off this offseason. Yeah. Don't play him at nose. So unfortunately that could mean that he's gone. But nice thing is usually the one position that is flooded in free agency with pretty decent talent, defensive line, interior defensive lineman.
Those guys, I mean, Akeem Hicks could become available. Henry Anderson just was released today. There's going to be somebody there that the Broncos probably can bring in that maybe you're not getting, like Klis said, maybe you're not getting Shelby Harris back, but maybe you get, 3/4 of the production for half the price. And that's just math, baby. Tyler Randall coming in here, $5. We did talk about this earlier, but I think I got an interesting spin for this one. What are your guys' thoughts on Miami cutting Van Noy after just 1 year of his big signing? The Miami Dolphins, say what you will about them, they do not buy into the sunk cost fallacy. If a guy doesn't fit, move on. And that's something, it stinks to have that dead cap. But, if the guy's not fitting in there, what are you doing? You're just wasting time. And that's something it costs the Broncos more money to move on from Juwan James than to keep him. But that's one that gives me a little bit of pause because you could just hold on to him there. But if Juwan James is not going to play, then my cat's about to make an appearance here. They said, "Hey, you're at an hour now." Sorry, kitty. Let's get out of here. No, it's that's one that I come back to. It's just a little different because it actually costs more to move on from James than to keep him.
Right, and this is one thing I do worry about Van Noy is that maybe the Patriots is the only system that he really works in. That they know what his skill set is and how to maximize that. Now he had a great year for the Patriots that last year. But really, other than that last year, he was a pretty below average player. And then he goes to Miami, which should have been a decent fit because, hey, Flores was coming from the Patriots. But even there, it wasn't quite the seamless transition as they were hoping. And so I just worry about that if after one season they're going, this guy's not a fit. Is he going to be a fit anywhere else? I don't know.
It's a tough one. And also, Shane Trent making me go on Twitter to think that a trade just happened. Shame on you I had to validate it or verify it before I flashed it up there. So that's not happening. That didn't happen, at least as far as I can see. Carl, we're at an hour. Any thoughts before we get out of here? We talked about Broncos going after cornerbacks. We talked about the Broncos interior defensive line, linebacker. We've talked a lot about draft, obviously, but who are some of the free agents here that interest you for a cornerback and interior defensive line specifically?
Is this true? Breaking news: Baltimore and Jacksonville.
That's what I said was not true. Nope, I looked it up.
No.
I was just saying, like, I looked. See, he's laughing. Look at this.
Oh, okay. You got me.
He got
me with that
Carl,
fake news. I'm sorry, you did. I'm sorry. I was reading while you were talking, and I'm not good at multitasking. I'm sorry, man.
Proof that Carl doesn't listen to my hot air either. Not my wife, not my co-host, not the listener. No, okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Defensive line, or interior defensive linemen and cornerbacks that interest you in the free agency class cycle.
I'm trying to remember all the people that are supposed to be hitting the market here. Let's see. I'm trying to remember a couple of names off the top of my head. Sheldon Rankins would be one that would interest me.
Eric loves him. What about your boy Dalvin Tomlinson? He's probably too expensive, but I know you loved him in that draft.
I did. I think I loved him in the draft process. I loved him because I knew, if nothing else, he's going to be a great run defender.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if the guy has that ability, I at least know, hey, they're going to bring something to the table.
Yeah.
Sometimes these guys that come in that you hope are going to be these pass rushing specialists, DeMarcus Walker, and they can't be that. Well, then they don't have that other skill set to fall back on. That's where it starts getting into some issues there.
I would be very interested if Akeem Hicks becomes available. But if not Akeem Hicks, somebody that the Vic Fangio defensive guys developed, Roy Robertson Harris, been a depth guy for them, but the Broncos are looking for kind of a 5-tech, 3-tech. This guy is super long, got some pass rushing chops as well. He interested me a lot. If you're looking at a little bit more money side, do you think there's any chance the Broncos would bring back Derek Wolfe? I know it's crazy, but like he's available, like a 1-year deal, coming back to play in a scheme that he was pretty good here in 2019.
Yeah, I think that's a real possibility. I think he really loved Denver. I mean, obviously he signed a second contract, and I think his family really liked it here. So it wouldn't surprise me. I don't think he left on the worst of terms, per se. I don't think it was the best of terms, but I don't think it was the worst either.
Could you see them flipping that contract that Shelby Harris had this year? Was it 1 year, $3.5 million, and switching it over to Derek Wolfe?
Is he going to take that
in this offseason cycle with how little teams have to pay? How many teams can't pay at all? I don't know. I mean, he might not even get that.
Yeah.
So I'm way more interested in the cornerback market. Just to list some names here, but they would go on for a while. William Jackson's probably the crown jewel out there. He's really talented. Shaquille Griffin, still pretty young. I think he would fit this scheme. Even though he was drafted for a cover 3, I think he can play the match quarters. I'm interested in Xavier Rhodes. He was obviously, Paton knows Rhodes, being there with Minnesota for a while. Rhodes had a terrible 2019 season. Really good this last year in Indianapolis in a scheme that plays, you guessed it, off zone coverage on the boundary. And that's exactly what he would be doing here. And Chidobe Awuzie, obviously another guy who would make sense here. And one that I think Desmond King would be a good fit, especially if the Broncos move on from Kareem Jackson, to have that nickel ability. You don't know what Kareem Jackson or Bryce Callahan, can he play the whole season? Sang Baskey coming off an injury, to have a safety slot hybrid, which is what Desmond King does, that can tackle and has ball skills as well and can provide return ability. I mean, I would love to get him. And that's probably just me being biased as a Hawk, but I think he's just such a good scheme fit. I really do. Yeah.
No, you're right. So I think there's some decent names out there. I don't think there's any real true number one guys that you're saying, this is our guy that we're really banking on to be that true star for us in the secondary like that. But there's still some really solid guys. And really, I do think, even though a Fangio defense does shine its brightest when it has a true star cornerback, it's still also, it functions, obviously. If you've got 4 solid guys across the board that you can really depend on doing their job, he can still mix things up. It's not as great as what he had with Chicago, having a true number one cornerback, or even when he was in San Francisco. But he can still make it work. I mean, that's the great thing about his defense, is it is multiple in how he can attack teams. I mean, he even switched up this last year. All the injuries, he's like, all right, we got to play a different style of defense. And it wasn't perfect, but he made it work with the talent that he had.
Yep, that's a good one. We got Richie Rich, who sent me a blue steel level picture today when we were talking about your beard game. He sent me one. His eyes, those blues, man, the daggers. We appreciate you, Rich.
Can you turn
Nick and Carl, do you guys see any young IDL guys which might be good options to trade for during the draft? I think he's asking specifically about guys in the draft. Typically, you're not going to see young interior defensive linemen that are worth trading for, that are already on teams being traded for. Davion Nixon, I like, but I don't really like him as much in this scheme. I feel like he's a one gap penetrating 3 technique, and that's just me. I mean, he seems like a great person and very fun, a lot of energy, but we're talking actual scheme fit. I don't know if he's the best there. It's just a really bad interior defensive line class, guys.
It's so bad.
I don't know what to tell you. I really like Aleem McNeil from North Dakota State, or not, excuse me, North Carolina State, one of the other end states. He's really fun. I think he played at like 330 this year, and he's going to get down to like 310, 315. Heck of an athlete. I also really like Billy Brown from Texas A&M. I don't think he's getting much hype right now, but he might have the strongest hands in the class. So it would be really interesting. Oh, no, guys on teams like Quinnen Williams or Deron Payne. The Broncos aren't in a position probably to be giving up draft capital, young cost control guys, unless it's for a quarterback. You don't really start to make those moves until that question is answered, and you just don't know right now. Unless you're getting him for a bargain, but in that case, somebody's going to want him more, I'm sure.
Right. I was going to say, I mean, Quinnen Williams, it's going to take
9.
It would take 9, to get a guy like that. He went, what, 3rd overall?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And and he's still got a couple more years of cost control.
And he was awesome this year. Slow rookie year. Interior defensive linemen, guys. They take linemen in general. They take a year to you got to let them get in that weight room, understand the scheme. It's why I'm not really worried about Lloyd Cushenberry, and maybe a little bit worried about McTelvin Najim, but not like really worried, because it was always going to take a year. It was always going to take a year. So if he's not, if you don't see him this year, that's when you can start to have some red flags. Todd Ostendorf, you got to talk about Christian Barmore. I really don't like how his motor is so on and off. When he plays great, it's good. I also think he's going to be overvalued because this interior defensive line class is cheeks. So just somebody needs an interior defensive lineman. They're going to be like, oh my God, if I don't get Barmore, I'm screwed. You don't want to be in that position. So I'm much more, and Broncos aren't going to be screwed. I mean, obviously you have Purcell coming back, which is a concern, but I think with Draymond Jones already there, and Deshaun Williams played pretty well down the stretch. Like that raises the floor of that room. I would not completely discount him. You don't want to start him, I don't think, but like you got him there. So you just need a Shelby Harris replacement, even if it's not to the same quality, and you will be okay. Obviously, I'd rather have it as a strength, but still.
Right. I think if you can have it as an above average group with maybe the potential for star power because of Draymond Jones, I think that's fine for what you're really asking that unit to do. And you can still have a top 10, top 15 defense easily. I mean, heck, the Broncos had that this last year, even with all the injuries. They were still right there around that 15th mark when you're talking about defensive ability. Barmore.
And that was despite the offense turning the ball over like candy at Halloween.
Yeah.
That hurts.
Yeah.
That hurts a good defense.
Right. And Ajim, we'll see what he really becomes. I don't know. I really, there's so much potential there. He's one of those players that just kind of like Barmore. You saw flashes. You saw moments that you're like, this is why he was a 5-star recruit. And then you see other times where you're just like, did he even play that game? I know he did, but I never saw him do anything. So it's just so hard when you see those kind of guys. What are they really going to turn it on when they get to the NFL? Usually if they are that way in college, it's hard to see them all of a sudden become something in the NFL, unless it's something where they're just getting such bad coaching that there's a reason that they failed. Ajim, there's some of that. I do think he got pretty bad coaching. I think he also, because he didn't have one position that he played, I think he was hurt by that, where they just moved him all over the place and asked him to do multiple things that at times he was not really geared towards. I think that hurt him, but I still think he's probably still going to be more of a part-time player most of his career.
And you know what? That's okay. That was a year, the Broncos with extra 3rd-round draft capital that year, getting young, cost-controlled, developmental depth guys that you can rotate there on the interior defensive line. Never a bad idea. That's eating your veggies. Down, maybe it's not the most enjoyable in the moment, It's not drafting a running back, the splash. But down the line, you're going to be thankful for eating those veggies. So speaking of which, guys, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I did see earlier, our listeners really know you well. They said you want Mac Jones in the first, and then for the Broncos to trade back up into the first for Najee Harris. So
all right,
they know
done.
you.
That's it.
Know you, man.
That's the end of the show. That's now we're just talking preposterous stuff. No, you're pissing me off. Oh, I shouldn't say that word. Excuse me, guys. I'm not supposed to cuss on here. Oh, John said it's okay. Okay, that's added to the repertoire. We can say that from now on. Okay, guys, we're probably gonna get out of here. Carl, you got any plans the rest of the night? Anything fun going on? Can I work on any articles or stuff with the family?
Well, I'm like I said, I'm got 28 days until my race. So I'm in intense training right now. I had my gallon jug of water beside me earlier, and thankfully I kind of had to take a little break because I knew I'd be doing this show and I didn't want to have to run out of here in the middle of it.
Carl, if you were committed to the cause, you would wear an adult diaper. Hashtag Carl's adult diaper. I care too much about your hydration not to at least suggest the adult diaper for the pod. And thank you.
Okay.
Mike.
Next week, man.
Next week, we need to get some in the merch store, some Building the Broncos adult diapers. All right, guys, we got to get out of here. It's starting to get a little slap happy. That's going to do it for Building the Broncos this week. Really do appreciate it. Every single Tuesday at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, we will be here, Carl and I, bringing you our Denver Bronco takes, draft, Bronco-centric, et cetera, the world at large, adult diapers. It's all here. Anything anybody could want in this show. You can find Carl on Twitter at Carl Dumler, MHH. You can find John, who just left the screen, so he's not sharing it there anymore. But you can find John on Twitter at John K MHH. Also find myself on Twitter at Kendell MHH. Guys, heading over to milehighhuddle.com for all of our written content and the community content as well. And I've been publishing a lot. I know Eric has a bunch coming down the tracks. I mean, you said it to lead off the show. March and April for us, almost as fun as the regular season, and maybe even more fun than the regular season, given the Cardinals' issues. Or the Cardinals. Wow, I'm thinking baseball here. The Broncos' issues over the last few seasons. So, we really love this time of year. It's a lot of fun. I mean, heck, it's called Building the Broncos for a reason. Guys, head on over to iTunes, leave us a 5-star rating and a comment. Like, subscribe, and share if you are joining us on YouTube. And for our Facebook listeners, click those thumbs up or laugh, react, heart react, whatever you want to do. It's a really big help. Doing any of those things can help support us and help us continue to bring you our Denver Bronco deep dives. You can follow us on Twitter at Mile High Huddle and at BTB Football Pod. Carl, I think I am going to go cook dinner. And guys, Slim Slow is correct here. Hit the like on the way out. Click those thumbs up. Ending the show with a bang. We do appreciate all you guys. Everybody stay safe. And Carl singing an outro. Oh, okay.
I'm going to list 5 players. If the Broncos take one of them at pick 9, I will write an outro for our show.
I think the violin's in the closet right behind me.
Okay. Well, obviously I got the wrong side guitar.
Inverse.
I got if I turned my camera, you'd see my keyboard. I got my musical room all right here.
Got to jam sometime. It's all we can do these days, the virtual stuff. But guys, gonna let you go. We really do appreciate it. Stay safe. Be positive. Test negative. Go Broncos.